Now, with the profiles are really cool because we're actually dealing with your conscious and your unconscious. And from the human design perspective, what this means is that the conscious line, the first number in the profile, is actually how the world receives you, how your personality shows up, how people would talk about you. So for me, I'm a six line, which is leading by example. And so with the six line in human design, the first third of your life is a lot of trial and error, where you're more of like the three line, which the three line is considered the rising phoenix, where it's constantly experiential learning of trial and error. So as the six line, people will look at me and be like, wait, you had a neck injury and you look like that? Wait, you had inflammation and you're able to be this type of lean within the limitation of your eating list. Wait, you have a torn ACL and you can still dance? What's your secret? And so the secret is my two line. My two line is my I'm kind of like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to the body, but that also has to do with my Chiron, right? So we really start to see how things tie together. When we're thinking about your conscious line, this is how people identify with you. And the unconscious line is more of how, like, just your overall state of being. So you could probably ask me a question, and I will most likely have the answer for you, slash, I will know the resource to give you. Or my resource to ask the question to have that answer for you. And that's just something naturally that has happened for me. So when we're looking at this, then we can really start to see also that on the unconscious level, sometimes there are going to be things that we deal with all the time that might not be pleasant. So for the two line in the unconscious, even though I am very resourceful and yeah, well that's it. Even though I'm very resourceful, because it is my unconscious, because you cannot see the picture while inside the frame, that means that I might not actually be able to see what it is that I'm good at. And this is goes into this subconscious belief, I'm not enough. And so there has been a lot of things that I have done to educate myself in all different ways because I felt like I wasn't enough and I felt like I had to know all the things in fitness. But really, if I had just taken certifications that I was interested in purely because I was interested in it, not because I felt like I wasn't good enough, I would have had a more pleasurable experience. If you have a six line in your unconscious or a three line in your unconscious, your natural state, your experience of life is going to be a lot of trial and error. If you're a six, it's in that first third of your life that you're going to have a lot of trial and error on an unconscious level, on a level that you cannot control. If you're a three on an unconscious level, it's going to feel like nothing ever works, but it is working because overall, this is the expansion of your soul. So we're really going to be able to have a larger context for some of the experiences, some of our quote unquote struggles, and a way to reframe them because the struggle in weightlifting grows your muscle. Struggle is what grows. And so when we can start to look at these aspects of ourself as a way that like this is entirely to grow our soul, it's really going to loosen up the resistance we have around the eating and exercise habits necessary for whatever your dream body is. And it's going to loosen up the attachment to the dream body where you're not attached to the dream body in a way that everything that you're doing right now is getting judgment because you're not there yet. And so understanding your profile on the conscious and the unconscious level really gives so much context to working with the energy. This is also going into your overall picture of who you are. So, profiles one and four are known as the foundational leaders, and they're teaching structure and breaking down transformation into actionable steps, which is fantastic. And so, for you to be self led, what this means is you're taking in all this information from the fat life of eating, exercise, doing your energy work with brain and heart coherency, getting more objective with using your astrology, and connecting with your inner child. Now you have all this information. And so then now you being you as the foundational leader, you're like, okay, well, I have all of the context I need. This is what I think is going to be best for me. Now let me go post in the group. Let me show up to the call. Let me post in our Telegram and ask questions and see what you think about this. How do you think, do you think this plan is pretty good? And then I can coach you through it. If you're a 2 and 5, you're the magnetic innovator. So you're using intuition, embodiment, and radical shifts to create impact, which is so cool because what this means is if you're embodying your intuition, because of course you're doing all your inner work, so your intuition can actually be heard because your intuition is subconscious, laying right next to your pain from your frozen inner child emotions. When you're actually embodying your intuition, you are going to create radical shifts because your intuition embodied is not status quo. So this is fantastic. And what I hope you're also gathering from this right now and getting excited about is that when you are refining your eating and your exercise habits according to your energy, you're refining your energy on every level. And so you're changing your consciousness on every level. So, whatever it is that you're doing in the world, these profiles, being the foundational leader, being the magnetic innovator, being the wisdom keeper, they're going to grow exponentially. So, whatever it is that you're doing in your life that you're focused on beyond your body is going to come to you more easily and efficiently. Now, profiles 3 and 6, your wisdom keepers, learning through experience, embodying transformation, and leading by example. So, I went into that a lot on the previous slide, so I won't go into it again, but just know you're living through experience. And so, you can actually have like a really fun time experimenting with all different ways to eat and exercise. The 12 profiles, we're not going to go into this line by line because if it doesn't apply to you, I do not want to waste your time. So just know that whatever profile you are, you have the overview here. You're either the 1-3, the alchemist, you're the 1-4, the grounded visionary, you're a 2-4, the magnetic muse, you're a 2-5, the intuitive disruptor, you're a 3-5, the resilient trailblazer, you are a 3-6, the embodied phoenix. And slide number 2. You're either a 4-6 heart-centered leader, 4-1 the unshakable sage, number a 5-1 the visionary guide, a 5-2 the embodied mentor, a 6-2 that's me the quantum healer, and a 6-3 the cosmic warrior. So speaking from experience as the quantum healer, you are here to be a role model who shows others how to evolve beyond limitations. Your life is about integration, healing, and ultimately leading by example. Clearly, we're in February of 2025. I tore my left ACL on December 27th of 2024. I was already experimenting with different ways to do cable kickback for your glutes. When you put your heel up into releve, it puts your pelvis in the correct position for something called mechanical tension. And mechanical tension is how the muscle really grows versus just putting a whole bunch of weight on it. It's the tension that's tearing the muscle, but when you actually put your skeleton in the correct position, the growth is exponential. So the feedback that I got from Melissa, my dance teacher, is really about weight, shifting the weight because I really had a hard time finding my placement in the heels so that I could move quickly, but then stop on a dime. And so with that feedback, I was like, okay, well, like, what do I need to do physically in my body so that I can dance better? So I was already changing how I was exercising and I could see the payoff. I definitely saw the payoff. But then when I tore my ACL and I went to two doctors, one doctor said, the orthopedist said, don't have surgery. If you don't have pain now, there are people that will have the surgery and then they're in consistent pain after. He's like, don't do the surgery if you don't need to. Then I went to the sports medicine, and the sports medicine guy was like, you're a perfect candidate for surgery. I have athletes come in here all the time post surgery and they're fine. Do the surgery. If dance is that important to you, do the surgery. I was like, and he's like, however, you could be one of the 10% that don't need surgery. It's a genetic anomaly. It isn't any type of therapy that they did to prevent the surgery. He's like, that could very well be you. And he's like, if you strengthen your hamstring will help stop the knee from hyperextending because basically the ACL stops the knee from bending backwards. So when he and I did a muscle test, he's like, can you hear when I pull on your right knee? There's a stopping point. Like, yeah. He's like, okay, now when I pull on your left one, can you tell how like there's no like stop? And he's like, it's only stopping because your skin is stopping your knee from separating. He's like, that one's torn. So I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, just try strengthening your hamstrings, see what happens. So I'm like, okay. So I took a week off of exercise after I tore it, and I went back to the gym and was even more specific with how I was placing my ankle and my pelvis. And I tell you, I am dancing better. I'm dancing better. Do you hear me? And my body actually feels better, ironically enough. So I'm sharing this with you because there are no limitations. And there are so many things in spiritual contexts where they talk about how your body is the limitation. And then some other things say it's only your mind that is the limitation. And it's like, well, okay, we can time travel in our mind because that's memory, and so, but our body can't just, you know, manifest somewhere else on a dime. And then the flip side is I should not be doing a lot of the things that I'm doing physically because I have limitations, but because I have figured out, well, what's the alternative? What's the other muscle group to work? What's the other function? How can I actually create strength around a certain area of my body that's more vulnerable? So then the limitation starts to go away and the limitation starts to be the superpower. So that's what I want to share with you, that you're going to be able in your own way, in your own profile, really be able to embody what it is you came here to do on the soul level.